So, if you have seen, I don't want to say rant, but if you've seen me just like in my first video talk about all the stuff that I have to record just today and in the upcoming like weeks, you know that this channel is gonna be pretty busy. So I'm just gonna keep rocking and rolling right now because we need to talk about a wrestling show that happened last night. I'm of course talking about AEW Dynasty from Vancouver, British Columbia. This is the third ever Dynasty. I was fortunate enough to go to the first one that was in St. Louis. And that was an absolutely awesome show. That had Danielson Ospreay, which is that's probably the best match that I've ever seen live. And also had Swerve's title chain, or Swerve winning the world title, which I'll never forget that in my life. But yeah, this is the third ever Dynasty, and I gotta say, right off the bat, this was a pretty fun show. Do I think it'll be one of AEW's best of the year? No, I don't think so. But it was a pretty good show, and we're gonna have to wait and see how it compares to WrestleMania, because that's probably gonna be the biggest debated question over these next couple of weekends. Was Dynasty better than WrestleMania? Well, we'll have to wait and see. But first, let us run through really quickly the stuff that happened on the 0 Hour. First up, some big news coming out of that 0 Hour. Camille made her return to AEW. She attacked Willow Nightingale backstage and was made it pretty clear that she was going to be coming for that TBS championship. There were 4 matches on the 0 Hour. Alex Windsor beating Marina Shafir. Camille getting a squash match over Big Ann. Jack Perry retained his national title against Mark Davis of the Don Callis family. And Divine Dominion, which was Megan Bayne and Lena Cross, they beat Hyann and Maya World to retain the women's tag titles. So yeah, just really quick sprint through the 0 Hour. We opened things up with, in my opinion, the match of the night, which was the Young Bucks versus Takeshita and Okada, who represent the Don Callis family. This match was really, really good. Just lots. This was, to me, reminded me of a PWG tag match from... When was PWG at their hottest? Like maybe in the 2010s, I want to say. It was like just a straight up, 2-on-2 tag match from PWG with like all the big name stars, which probably also included the Young Bucks as well. But there was also a lot of good story beats in there as well. It wasn't just moves. It was Takeshita and Okada trying to work together to try and beat the Young Bucks. But, of course, towards the tail end of the match, they end up coming to blows, and they actually hit each other's finishers on each other. Takeshita with his bicycle knee to Okada. Okada hit a Rainmaker on Takeshita. I really liked the finish of this match, which was the Bucks going for the Meltzer driver. Takeshita was on the outside. He looked like he was going to stop one of the Bucks from doing it, but he let him go, and they hit the Meltzer driver on Okada to win the match. But my assumption is that Takeshita will be promptly kicked out of the Don Callis family, thus accelerating his babyface turn, and he will probably end up facing Okada at Double or Nothing for the international title. At least that's how it, in my head, it's probably going to go. But yeah, in my opinion, the match of the night. This was really, really good. And then came the biggest shock of the night for me. Chris Jericho versus Ricochet. Jericho's first match back in AEW in a little over a year. And I gotta say, like, they kept it simple, which in wrestling, sometimes that is the better thing to do. Like, Jericho was essentially, kind of a springboard for Ricochet to do all of his cool stuff on. Jericho didn't need to do much because they had the crowd in the palm of their hands, essentially, in this matchup. Jericho played all the greatest hits, got a Walls of Jericho that was broken up by the rest of the Demand, which was the Gates of Agony. He even hit a Lion Salt, which looked really good. Caught Ricochet out of midair with a code breaker. Like, to me, this was really, really good match, and I think a really, really good foundation for Jericho's return to the company. But in the end, though, Ricochet hit the Spirit Gun and his own Lion Salt to pin Jericho. Now, I very boldly said in my predictions that, this match is an easy layup. Jericho's going to win this match. Well, apparently not. Apparently not. So, it's pretty cool to see Ricochet get a win here over a really, essentially one of the founders of the company, even though he's not a founder. He's one of the, starting pillars of the company, shall we say. But, yeah, that was probably my biggest shock of the night, was Ricochet beating Jericho in his return match. Moving on, Andrade versus Darby Allin. If Darby won, he would get a world title match in the future. This one was really good as well. I mentioned in the predictions video that Andrade's just been on a roll, having really good matches. He had a really good match with Bandito at Revolution, and this was no exception either. This was really, really good between two. I don't want to say, I don't know how young Andrade is, but I feel as though Darby is still, pretty young. But, two guys that have, I'll say this, a really long future in the business, and I know I say that in terms of Darby Allin and the style that he wrestles, but I truly do mean that. Lots of really good back and forth in this matchup. Every time Andrade hits his, punch fake into the elbow, into that back elbow, it looks like it kills every single time. He's really got that down to where it looks like it kills every time. But in the end, though, Darby Allin was able to cinch in his Last Supper pin to beat Andrade in this matchup. And since he did so, he will get a title shot in the future. And by the future, I mean this upcoming Dynamite against for Spring Break. Yeah, Spring Breakthrough. Spring Breakthrough or Spring Breakout. One of the two. So yeah, that is a match that is going to be happening on Dynamite. MJF, Darby Allin for the world title. So that will be very interesting to see. And then also afterwards, Andrade shook Darby's hand and raised it in a sign of respect. Then we have the tag title match, FTR versus Cajun Cope. This was also a really good match. Lots of really good back and forth stuff. Lots of trading of each other's moves. Even towards the tail end, FTR tried to do the Bucks' BTE trigger, which I thought was also really funny as well. Also towards the tail end of the match, I think it was Cash grabbed one of the tag title belts and clocked Edge in the head with it, and he started, you could see the mark on his head and the blood leaving his forehead immediately after that belt shot. He got busted open bad. There were a few instances where Cajun Cope either broke up a shatter machine, or no, they ended up kicking out of a shatter machine, which made you think like, oh, they're probably going to end up winning this match. But nope, they FTR neutralized Christian on the outside. Cope, excuse me, fought valiantly on 2-on-1, but it just wasn't enough. One more shatter machine to get the win for FTR. I think I stated this in the predictions video that I think what they'll probably end up doing is have Cajun Cope win the match. They'll probably end up doing a rematch at Double or Nothing, and that's where they'll probably end up doing the title change. In my opinion, anyway. That's just my opinion. Moving through here, we have the Casino Gauntlet match to determine the new TNT champion. Ciampa and Rush started things out, having won their respective qualifying matches on Dynamite and Collision. The rest of the competitors were Speedball Mike Bailey, Kevin Knight, El Clone, Anthony Bowens, Pac, Daniel Garcia, and Wheeler Yuta, and Bandito as well. I was like, surely they have the rest of the competitors listed on this. This was what I like about AEW's Casino or their gauntlet matches, how they do gauntlet matches, is that it's basically the first person to get a pinfall or submission, so that you can have multi-man carnage, you can have cool and unique spots like Bandito breaking up Ciampa's pin by hitting a 21 plex. Like, that was absolutely insane. But that was broken up as well. Just like really cool stuff, like Speedball doing his thing, Kevin Knight doing his thing, El Clone getting like a really good run in this, the Death Riders doing their thing as well. Just all around good stuff. Garcia ended up cinching in the Dragon Slayer on, I believe it was Speedball, and he like really leaned back, but in doing so, he accidentally set him up for Kevin Knight to hit the UFO splash onto Garcia, and he pinned Garcia to win the TNT Championship. I was not expecting Knight to win it, but at the same time, it's like, you look at all the matches that he put on during the C2, and it's like, this dude could have a real good shot of being like upper tier mid-card champion, and I'm really happy that they pulled the trigger on him. It's a new face in a really fleshed out mid-card scene for AEW, so I'm just really happy about that, and it could potentially lead to a Kevin Knight Speedball feud, because Speedball didn't look pleased about that outcome. So who knows what they have cooking up, but congrats to Mr. Kevin Knight for becoming the new TNT champion. We continue with championship action. Thekla, Jamiehayter. This was also a really good match. It's just a shame that the crowd were, kind of... That's the thing about AEW pay-per-views. It's like there's so much action, and it just happens like it's just one after another, after another, after another, and it's just like you don't have time to breathe or just like, relax for a little bit. And this, unfortunately, was kind of like the part of the card where everyone's just like tired. They're trying to regroup energy. But the ladies still put on a really good match. Lots of good back and forth in this. But in the end, though, Thekla ends up getting a roll-up on Hayter and ends up using the ropes for leverage to get the dirty win and retain her championship. We move on now to Jon Moxley and Will Ospreay for the Continental Championship. This match told a really, really good story. Will hit 2 hidden blades right out the get-go, and he seemingly was going to have the match won, but he wanted his revenge. And as soon as his mind was set on revenge, it was basically a downhill slope. Because as soon as Will, tried to, go after Mox, it's like Mox, brought back every single bit of force that Will brought and then some. Mox hit a paradigm shift on the floor. Hit a pile driver on the stairs. Moxley's wrestled this way, but, Will, so hell-bent on revenge, is just like, he's just going to keep going and keep going, to the point in which it almost seemed like he had a stinger in his left arm and he just couldn't hook certain moves together. So I thought that was a really interesting story that they told throughout the match. In the end, though, it was a stomp, a paradigm shift, and a death rider that ended up putting Will away for Moxley to retain his Continental Championship. Now, do I think that this is the end of this rivalry? I don't think so. They may run this match back at Double or Nothing, but I see Will on a much bigger trajectory, because I see him potentially winning the world title at All In. That's what I kind of envision for Will at this moment. I think a lot of people do. But so I don't know how you would wrap this feud up in a bow, but we'll just have to wait and see on that. But Moxley, still Continental Champion. The buffer match in between that match and the main, it was the Dogs, who just recently won the Trios Championships. They put them on the line against the Conglomeration, which was Roddy Strong, Orange Cassidy, and a returning Kyle O'Reilly. I really liked the skit entrance that the Conglomeration had at the beginning, with Kyle showing up through the door, and then the Dogs just coming out and just ravaging the whole set. Something big happened in this matchup. All the best wishes to, the complete psychopath that is Gabe Kidd. I think I heard somewhere that he has a separated shoulder, and Tony Khan even said during the press conference that he's going to be out indefinitely, which stinks, because the Dogs just literally formed and literally won the Trios Championships, so that kind of stings for him. So Dogs were at a disadvantage relatively early on in this matchup. It was a really fun Trios match when it was a Trios match for that little bit of time, before then heading into, a 3-on-2 handicap match. Lots of good fast-paced action. I love the speed and velocity that Clark Connors has with his moveset. Like, dude is moving like a freaking bullet in that ring, and I know that has to hurt so much. But in the end, though, Kyle was able to make, I think it was Connors, tap out in the ankle lock, and we have new Trios champions in the Conglomeration. And I also do like the fact that they had the Orange Cassidy style pyro for the celebration at the end, which I thought was a nice touch. So yeah, the Conglomeration, new Trios champs. Which then takes us to the main event. MJF, Kenny Omega, the Devil versus the God of Pro Wrestling. I really like the entrances for this match. Reminded me a lot of Shawn and Taker's entrance from Mania 25, with Shawn descending from the top of the set and Taker rising from the bottom of the stage. I thought all that stuff was really, really good. The story of the match was they had wrestled once before, But that was when Kenny's, diverticulitis hadn't been discovered yet, but he was secretly dealing with that at the time. So he was basically kind of a 40 to 60% of himself. Here, it's past, but he's still maybe not, top. Maybe 90% Kenny Omega. And, they put on one heck of a match. A heck of a match to close out this show. Towards the tail end of the match, Bryce Remsburg, the ref, gets bumped off of a V-trigger. Even before I even go into the finishing sequence, just so many really good near falls in this matchup. Kenny hit a avalanche one-winged angel, but Max was given enough recovery time to kind of get his senses back a little bit to roll outside of the ring. And now I'll get into the tail end of this matchup. Bryce gets bumped off of a V-trigger by Omega. MJF scurries over to Bryce, reaches into one of Bryce's pockets to get out the Dynamite Diamond ring. Tries to go swing at Kenny with it, but ends up getting hoisted up into a one-winged angel. Kenny gets the visual pin. Paul Turner rushes down, and MJF kicks out of the one-winged angel. Granted, he had maybe 10 seconds to recover, but still, that makes him the third guy ever to kick out of a one-winged angel. And then there's a bit of fighting on the apron. MJF hits Kenny Omega in the stomach with the Dynamite Diamond ring. Picks him up for a tombstone. Tombstones him onto the outside through a table, which was actually used earlier on in the matchup. Kenny did the New Japan Kenny spot, which I call it, which is the diving double stomp to the outside onto a person that has a table flipped upside down on them, which I know that probably has to hurt like crazy. But MJF tombstones Kenny through the table outside, puts him up on the apron, hits the Heat Seeker to win and retain his championship. And then afterwards goes back, sits on the throne, puts back on his devil crown as the show comes to a close. Like I said, man, this show was absolutely fun. It was such a blast to watch. Granted, it is the one knock that I think always everyone's going to say about these shows is that they're probably a little bit too long. But I'll take a long show that has a lot of great quality matches compared to WWE shows where it is basically 60% ads and maybe not even 60%. I would say 75% ads to 25% wrestling. I'd rather take that than take this show over a WWE show, in my opinion. That's just me. It's just me. But what are your guys' thoughts on Dynasty? Let me know down in the comments section below. But we are now officially here, ladies and gentlemen. WrestleMania is this upcoming weekend. Be sure to look out for my predictions for the show relatively soon on the channel. So be sure to stay tuned for that. But until then, guys, be safe out there, and I will catch you guys next time.